Welcome to Zaid Ibrahim podcast. My name is Zaid Ibrahim, and today we have our special guest, David Yoong.
Thank you.
And when you want to follow us, don't forget to subscribe, follow, to share, and like. Thank you. Now, today we are talking about this project, this elevated highway project that once was known as Kidak Highway. This is a highway, elevated highway, that was proposed to run from Kirara and to Petaling Jaya. And this project was cancelled by the Selangor government in 2015, I believe, David. Yes. And after protests, after objection, after demonstration by the majority of residents in Kinrara and Petaling Jaya. And even the current Menteri Besar, Amiruddin, during the last election campaign, announced that there will be no more of this elevated highway project. But somehow, we have been informed it has been revived, perhaps with a slight modification here and there. So the residents and the stakeholders organized themselves under this group called SCRAP. David is the chairman of SCRAP. So he's here to explain a little bit more than what you and I know about this mega project, which is totally unnecessary. Okay, David, I want to start by asking you, can you please explain if what is being proposed today, is it the same project as KIDEX in the olden days?
Well, based on our analysis, which is based on maps of the alignments, PJD Link is essentially 95% similar to KIDEX.
So now it's called
PJD Link. PJ Dispersal Link.
PJ Dispersal Link. So the name has been changed.
Yes.
But you are saying that it is 95% the same?
Yes, 95% similar. In fact, if I may go on, it's worse. I don't know if the camera can zoom in on this. This is KIDEX back in 2014. And this is PJD Link currently compared to two. The only difference is that KIDEX had this circular loop that goes over the one we call the one-way loop in PJ, whereas PJD Link hasn't got that loop. And why I say it's worse, because at this point where it doesn't go around the loop, it actually cuts through a long time established existing school called the Bukit Bintang Boys School, taking away 2 acres of the school grounds together with existing facilities like squash court and part of a canteen. And Dato, I always like to say this, at past press conferences, our forefathers, including the missionaries, have deemed it fit, to lay the foundations, to stack up the brick and mortar, to build these educational institutions. And education is the main pillar, one of the main pillars of nation building.
Of course.
And can we imagine today we are threatened by 2 acres of a long time established school grounds acquired to build a toll plaza just next to existing school classrooms for a private developer with his own vested economic interests? I don't see the logic. And I hope this is a good start for me to tell you why we are so strongly against. This is one of the big factors why we are against the highway.
I understand that 93% of the residents in PJ and Kinrara, they all don't want this project. What I don't understand, David, is why is it that this government, having promised during the election, they're not going to do it, and now change the name, change a few things, and willing to spend, I don't know, taxpayers' money. Of course, they say it's privately funded. By the end of the day, we have to pay.
Yes.
The toll, we have to pay through all sorts of land acquisition costs. I heard, my own assessment, that this project will cost probably $4 billion. It could be more because it's longer than KIDEX.
Oh, yes.
So why do you think they are not sticking to the original plan? What is it in their mind? Why is this project so necessary for the public? Can you have a reason for that?
Dato, I don't have the answers. I would like to know the answers too.
Okay. Okay,
I'd like to know the answers.
that's right.
For that matter, we have written multiple letters to PMX, to Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim. We have written to Rafizi. We have written to almost all the MPs of Kinrara and Petaling Jaya and Damansara, YB Gobind Singh. We have also written memorandums to the Menteri Besar, Dato Sri Amiruddin Shari. None of them replied.
When was this sent?
We started writing around about 2022 when we heard that the consultant acting for the developer is going to engage us in what they call focus group discussions. So we were not happy with the modus operandi. They were limiting us to 5 persons only. And we said, no, this is a massive project. So we should have a town hall meeting, which I think is the provision in the Town and Country Planning Act. It's not something that we invented, but nobody replied to us.
So this Madani government that's supposedly more transparent, more reform-minded, they did not reply to the residents' plea to cancel this project.
In fact, we started with a letter in January of 2023, and that is following the Madani government set in November, when Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim actually announced that he was going to improve the procurement process, if you remember that. Huh?
Yes.
And then sometime at the end of the year, just before the turn to 2023, he said it again. So we were carrying this information, these announcements that he made, borrowing on the strength and telling him, yes, indeed, this project is privately negotiated. There's no open tender. So please take note. Look at what is happening. Look at why the state government is still considering it, notwithstanding that it was approved by previous federal governments, they were either BN or PN, and now that it is one and the same federal and state, under essentially unity government, is essentially under Pakatan. So we're borrowing strength on that, quoting him on the 2 reports, and still no reply.
Yes. And this is the unfortunate part about this. What's happening today is because, on the one hand, we want to eliminate corruption, we want to deal with corruption, and yet we are not willing to be open. We are not willing to limit the effect of the Official Secrets Act. If all business tenders, business proposals, project submissions, procurement prices, if they're all secret, then how do you solve the corruption problem? And this is where I'm very glad that you are here, David, because the root of corruption is not just giving money, taking money. It is the whole system. It's the process.
I totally agree with you, Tato.
I mean, for example, we hear of this famous statement all the time, government on certain projects, this so-called private-public initiative, They say, the government is not going to spend any money. But it's not true. If you don't know what is the cost of the item, if you don't know what is the cost of the acquisition, if you don't know the cost of the services and all that, and how much it costs per kilometer, and how much of this, then that is corruption.
Yeah. In fact, to add on to that, Tato, if you don't mind, I have a favorite phrase, which I call a corruptible environment. Okay?
Corruptible.
It's difficult to prove corruption. In fact, if you're able to prove corruption, you're able to adduce evidence, that means the act of corruption has already taken place.
Yes.
Too late. What we want is to create a non-corruptible environment via the system that you talk about, the policies, the rules, many of which are in place in this nation.
Yeah.
Since nation building, since Merdeka, they are in place, but they're not enforced. They're not followed.
They're not followed. Now, this is where, I want to come back to this project, David. You have written to all the powerful people. You have made your views known. What next? Are you going to go to court or something like that?
Yeah, in fact, we have started judicial review action. I have to say here that there is another organization called SPJA, which is Sustainable PJ Association, or Persatuan PJ Lestari, which was actually registered last year in March. The longer term aims and aspirations of SPJA, of course, are very noble, to make sure PJA not overdeveloped and so on and so forth. At the very beginning, the whole intention to set this up was to actually to have a legitimate body to collect funds because we're doing crowdfunding. Yeah. And with those funds that are collected, we already started the first step, which is actually what we call discovery of information. There's a lawyer leading this. SPJA is the official body that is collecting the funds. And there was another group similar to Scrap called Say No to PJD Link with a website and all that, which has since transferred its rights of ownership and publicity to SPJA. So we are working together. It's just that I happen to have an organization called Scrap, which is stakeholders come residents against PJD Link. But we are all working hand in hand.
Yes. And it's very, very, very heartening to know because, all these government announcements about they want to go against abuse of power, corruption, whatever policies they have announced. It's only the people that can make sure it happens. It's only the residents, it's only the rakyat that can make sure it happens. Because
it's like pushing against a mountain.
I know. I know that I've been long enough in this business, in this game, and but it's heartening to see that the president and the people are committed to making sure that their rights are protected at least as far as is possible. Now, I just want to ask you the problem about the rakyat. You see, when the government says we need this particular project, or it is necessary, whether it's a highway, whether it's a port, whether it's an airport. Does the law? I thought the law says you must disclose. Is there a requirement in the plan somewhere that you have to disclose the cost benefit thing? Isn't there somewhere? Or is it secret? Totally secret?
The revealing of costs, as far as I know, is not explicitly mentioned.
It is not mentioned.
Yeah, it's not specifically itemized as such. But according to the Town and Country Planning Act 172, public engagement, public consultation is nothing new. As I said, we didn't invent it yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're supposed to engage. And in this particular case, if I were to cite evidence dating back to January 2021, when it was revealed that actually MTES has quietly met with PJD Link the year earlier, on the 3rd of September 2020, in fact, they have issued what they call conditional approval. So the developer from then on can conduct his studies, SIA, TIA, EIA, which is a social impact, traffic impact, and environmental impact, and make those submission of reports to the state government. Okay. So when it was discovered, to be exact, on the 28th of January 2021, Dato Sri Amiruddin announced in the papers that PJD Link has come to us, the state government, and said they are able to correct all the flaws, all the weaknesses of KIDEX. So he said, we give them a chance. It's not fair, to quote him, the headline was, it's not fair to say that PJD Link is like KIDEX. I don't know at that time, 2021, what was his basis of saying that before TIA, EIA, and SIA were submitted or even prepared. Yeah. So anyway, he said that. And since then, whether it's on 31st July when he announced the cancellation, or it was July 2022 when he made a speech at what you call at that time the Jelajah Harapan event held by the state government of Harapan, Pakatan Harapan, he kept on saying that if KIDEX is similar, if PJD Link is similar to KIDEX, then the state government has no hesitation but to cancel it. And if I may just quote a few other things that he said in the Jelajah Harapan speech. He said, if PJD Link is still following and is very similar to the KIDEX proposal, masih menimbulkan masalah kepada penduduk, masih menimbulkan keresahan kepada penduduk, masih membawa masalah kepada penduduk, and is certainly rejected by and is against the will and harapan of the majority of PJ people, then the state government will not accept and will reject the development of PJD Link. Now, at this appropriate juncture, I should show this. These are the results of surveys conducted by the SIA consultant engaged by the developer. It shows 27 out of 31 groups that have met with the consultant who are against the project. Some are strongly against the project. 2 were reported to be neutral. They don't want to take a stand, and these are mostly the pendidikan, the schools, who worried civil servants to take a stand. 2 were apparently in support from the PJ South area. So that works out to 83% of people who were objecting to the project. And we, the people of PJ and Kinrara, were worried that these studies, at that time, we were worried that it may not be independent. So from February to April last year, we ran our own survey. We call it the People Survey, and it's endorsed by 17 resident associations and NGOs, and also by Puan Maria Chin, whom we requested to endorse. And she, being the former MP of Petaling Jaya, she's in any way from the very beginning strongly objecting to the highway. And our own survey showed 93.6% out of 2,501 respondents are against, strongly against. Now, these are some of the reports. In fact, the full volume are much thicker, 3 volumes, filled with statistics, filled with each and every submission, and we analyze it with a socio-economic assistance. Yeah, all this prove that the people are definitely not in support. The people's views are that they are not appeased. They are still strongly objectionable to the project. And that answers your question, Tato. Why does the state still continue? On the one hand, you say, yeah, let the developer meet the people and prove that they can overcome the flaws. And now we're telling you, no, the flaws are still there. And we are strongly against the project.
Yes.
And yet the state, last week, on the 10th of January, has gone on, the MTES has met PJD Link the second time. And the news we heard that it's going to lead to a full approval by the state government.
Okay. So I hope the Prime Minister and the whole unity government leaders will listen to the issues raised by these residents, Petaling Jaya and Kinrara, and look at this project as your test. Your willingness to be open, your willingness to be transparent, your promise to be above board in all respect. This is the test. If a project of this magnitude, $3-4 billion project of about, 30 kilometers or so, is that so important for the nation that you have to disband, you have to discard, you have to throw away all your promises and all your promise and your own integrity of your own party? You are willing to sacrifice all that for what? And this is why I think these issues must not rest here. And I think, David, your other fellow grouping should persevere and make sure that this message of the people's wishes be heard. And if necessary, we may have to do more broadcasts after this.
Sure.
Is there anything else that you want to add? Because I think, as a summary, I think you need to summarize again.
What I wish to say, following what you just mentioned, is the first step is for governments or even agencies like LLM to start engaging the people. Yeah, I think I'm very proud on behalf of the resistance movements, many of us from PJ as well as Kinrara. We are not just people who hold up a fist and say, no. We actually have our reasons. We analyze the highway. We come to the conclusion that it has very poor connectivity. And I think they are very disingenuous claims by the developer, PJD Links and Dram Berhad, saying that PJD Link links to many existing highways. In fact, they don't. They actually link to existing residential roads, neighborhood roads, and then lead on to the highways. So they're going to bring in a lot of congestion in these hotspots, which are not the big highways. And in terms of planning, this is called a reversal of road planning hierarchy. You go from a big highway, like a big river, going down into a small longkang. It's definitely going to flood it, right? And then it is very toll-centric. You cannot get down, especially at both beginning ends, at Kinrara as well as Damansara. You get up, you have no place to get down until you pay at least 1 time or 2 times toll. So in the meantime, you pass through Jalan Harapan, no exits. So it's not as if the highway will help residents living along Jalan Harapan, the hub, 5 Stones and so on, to let them get home earlier to avoid the jam. No. It passes through Jalan Professor Kukay Kim, a very, prominent established commercial area. Someone likened it to the Orchard Road of Singapore, as in PJ, right?
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't allow customers to get down and do shopping at Jaya Shopping Centre or Digital Mall or any of the other plazas along that road because there are no exits. The exit comes after you pay toll, and that gets down to Federal Highway. And right now, there are alternative routes to get to Federal Highway, which are even more convenient and less jammed. So it doesn't make sense. You pay toll, right? And you build a big, massive structure causing irreparable environmental damage, social impact, drop in commercial property values, and so on and so forth. So just to sum up, we would like to call on the Menteri Besar, Dato Sri Amiruddin Syari, to stay with his announcement, his decision on 31st July. Don't continue to engage or entertain or consider PJD Link anymore. Just let it be cancelled. Improve for intra-city, within the city, improve public transport, first and last mile connectivity. And for intercity, arguably, maybe from NKVE right onto Kinrara Bukit Jalil Highway, build something that is belonging to the outer ring road concept. There are ways, but I'm not going to go into details. Go circumvent the city. Don't pass through the city. PJ itself is already getting very tight, and over the years from KDEX 2014 till now, there have been even more accelerated developments. That's why I think PJD Link has to go through the school, because there's got nowhere else to creep through. So this is our message to the Menteri Besar. Please consider the people's views, which have been clearly expressed, and just maintain the cancellation of the project.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming here to explain the issues. And I hope, again, it will not fall into deaf ears. I just hope that money is not everything. After all, the big money will go to some people, not the Rakyat. And all the Rakyat wants is for the government to listen to them. And I think that's a fair, legitimate request. Thank you very much, David. And
thank you, Tato.
Don't forget to subscribe, follow, share my podcast. Thank you very much.